to Bad Larry.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Bad Larry Kingdom. I'm your host, Bad Larry, and today's episode is the very first ever published comic with Rob Liefeld credited as the artist. Now, throughout this issue, I'm going to be, maybe it will seem like I'm being overly critical of Rob Liefeld's work, but I'm sure for most of my observations, y'all will understand at least my perspective. Now, let's rate that cover. This issue is X Factor, issue number 40, released in 1989, written by Louis Simonson and obviously drawn by Rob Liefeld, his first credited art project. Now, I rated this cover as only a 75% for a few reasons. If this is your first ever comic, you will be credited for as an artist. You want to really put your best foot forward, don't you? Only drawing 2 of the X Factor team members is a fail, in my perspective, when all 5 participate in the issue. Having no actual background is always a fail to me. And if you look at Cyclops with enough scrutiny, you will see, well, he's lumpy. That's the best way I can describe it. There's a difference between looking muscular and athletic and then looking like a lumpy guy or a guy in a poorly fitted muscle suit from the Halloween store. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. The X Factor team are attending Madeline Pryor's funeral. She died in Uncanny X-Men number 243. Check out that review in my Infernal playlist to see that full issue. And because Madeline was a test tube clone made by Mr. Sinister, no one came to her funeral, except X Factor. Sad. Oh, and the Nanny and her Orphan Maker, their ship is visible on the top of the page. What is also sad is Rob Liefeld's proportions. Archangel is listed as 6 foot tall, Iceman is 5'8", and Beast is 5'11". Why did he draw Archangel looking like he is 7 feet tall? The character in the front should be bigger than the ones in the back. So he has all of these characters' heights messed up in this frame. I will give him props, though, on drawing Beast's feet. He didn't have to do that using the age-old comic trick to just hide him. But he drew him, which is cool. The X Factor team has attended too many funerals recently. Obviously, this one for Madeline Pryor, but also Archangel's former girlfriend, Candy Southern. Back on the Rob Liefeld art critique, why did he draw the Fantastic Four ship, the little zoomy Fantastic Four ship for the X Factor team? Very odd Liefeld would copy that ship as this team's little away vessel. And why did he give Jean Grey a wonky eye on this page? Was he in such a rush he couldn't even center the eyes properly? She looks drunk or high or cockeyed. And how old is that baby? Liefeld made that baby look like he's 35 and tired of doing his taxes all weekend. For reference, I can see how he tried with the big cheeks, but the hair, the eyebrows, the nose and mouth, well, let's say he isn't good at drawing babies at this point in his career. Now that everyone is back on the X Factor ship, Iceman dismisses the AI ship's warning of a possible UFO in the clouds. The ship should have warned Beast or Cyclops or, well, anyone else besides Iceman, as he is too chill about possible threats. And boy, oh boy, if this image of Scott's baby isn't the absolute worst so far. He's huge! Cyclops looks like he's holding Chris Farley, shrunken down in his arms. This page is the official disbanding of the Exterminators team. Leech, Arthur, and Taki all decide they have to go back to school, which Cyclops agrees to and will take them, or Iceman will actually take them, and then reassures Jean Grey's parents they will find Jean Grey's kidnapped niece and nephew, Galen and Joey. We saw previously that Liefeld had trouble with height proportions drawing babies. Now we see he has trouble drawing older people. Yikes! Jean Grey's mom looks rough. And he has trouble drawing teenagers too. Taki is supposed to be in elementary school. You see what he should look like, but again, Liefeld draws him too old looking. Like he's 30. It's the jawlines, the chin, the neck size. So, Rob can only draw the heroes at this point between 20 and 40 years old. Everyone older or younger will look totally wrong. So it's delegated to Iceman to fly Artie, Leech, and Taki back to school in one ship, and although the nanny may want to seize these mutants for herself later, she wants Scott's little baby and the other ones that they rescued first and foremost. Boom Boom and Skids were kicked out of their fancy school, which is funded by money from Warren Worthington III. They were the first to actually receive a scholarship, so I don't know why Archangel just doesn't let him back in. It is his school, technically. And then Rusty Collins thinks that he has to turn himself back into the Navy for desertion. And Beast tells him he thinks he can talk to some people and get that punishment waived. After all, they are heroes doing some good work. Cyclops and Jean Grey decide to take all the kidnapped babies to the FBI in Washington, D.C. and leave little Nathan Christopher with Jean Grey's parents, who is on the AI ship. I included what I feel is another proportional mistake by Rob Liefeld in his art. He drew Rusty Collins, again, too old and too built. Rusty's only 18 or 19. I included what I think he should look more like. Even though he did train a lot with X Factor, it was more in his power control than his physicality. Liefeld draws Rusty with too square of a jaw, the neck too thick, making him look too old. Jean Grey, aka Marvel Girl, is reluctant to leave little baby Nathan Christopher with her parents. She knows what it took to save him, and she doesn't want to let him out of her sights now. Even though he's technically not her biological son, she's connected to him on a cellular level, as her and Madeline Pryor were identical genetically. Why is Beast doing the George Costanza pose? Awkward. Anyway, back to the action. Nanny's ship is hot on X Factor ship's tail, and then Nanny is about to use some crabby claws to snatch X Factor ship right out of the air. Now that baby Nathan Christopher is safe, Jean Grey is belly aching about losing her niece and nephew, Galen and Joey, to the nanny again, after she knew they were alive and being mind controlled by the nanny. Cyclops has to reassure Jean that this time was of the essence. The inferno was going on. No point in being a Monday morning quarterback. They had to save his son and the world. There was no time for anything else. The nanny has now caught up to and captured the X Factor ship. And now it's only a matter of time before the nanny and her Orphan Maker start a physical battle with X Factor. Cyclops blasts a hole in his own ship, which in my opinion was not smart for many reasons. Safety, and now this hole allows for an easy tactical entrance for the nanny and her Orphan Maker. I do like how Liefeld drew the Orphan Maker. Remember, this is a little kid in this armor, so it's being oversized is appropriate given the nanny upgraded the suit to accommodate battling all sorts of enemies, X Factor in particular. I think it's funny that the Orphan Maker is overly cocky because he has a big gun and the heroes don't have any guns. The Orphan Maker and Cyclops have battled before, and Cyclops knows his optic blasts just bounce off the Orphan Maker's armor. So Cyclops decides he's gonna blast the brains of the operation, the nanny, which is smart. The nanny is rarely in battle and is less armored up because of that fact. Archangel rudely smacks Cyclops out of the way with his wings to take on the Orphan Maker and unleashes a heavy barrage of neuro-disrupting razor knives. Again, Orphan Maker has too much faith in his gun. Archangel's wing knife attack was reckless and wild. Many of the blades would have hit the sleeping babies if Marvel Girl's telekinesis didn't stop them. Do I have to point out that these babies Rob Liefeld drew look like 22-year-old college kids? That's not a baby, that's a man! The Beast attacks the nanny, but the nanny uses her repulsor field to launch the Beast away. A great defensive mod for her suit, but the Beast lands in some wires and causes the nanny's ship to start falling from the sky, soon to crash land. During the confusion, Cyclops gets a hold of the Orphan Maker and offers the nanny a trade. All the babies the nanny has on board, including Jean Grey's niece and nephew, in exchange for the Orphan Maker. Archangel swept the nanny with his razor-sharp wings, thinking the nanny was just some egg-shaped robot. but the scream sounded too alive to be a robot. Meanwhile, the Nanny ship is still falling to Earth like a rock, along with the X Factor ship, with lots of innocent babies on board both vessels. Marvel Girl comes in clutch again with her telekinesis. She's able to safely land both vessels to the ground as gently as possible. The Orphan Maker runs to his Nanny. Nanny down, Nanny down! The Orphan Maker tells X Factor that the Nanny isn't just some robot, she's a real person, and tells them the origin story of the Nanny. The Nanny herself is a mutant and a super smart scientist, and she worked for the terrorist group called the Right, who used her machines to go hunt and kill mutants, which, of course, she wasn't too happy with. But the Nanny was captured and forced into one of her own suits, this egg-looking suit, but she escaped. The Nanny's first mission was to save the Orphan Maker from Mr. Sinister. Apparently, just like Cyclops, the Orphan Maker was uncontrollable, and Mr. Sinister was going to kill him. But the Nanny saved him. Jean Grey can sense her family members are nearby and rips open a wall to find her niece and nephew hanging on the wall like slabs of beef. Even though Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, has rescued Galen and Joey, her niece and nephew, they do not remember her at all. The Nanny brainwashed them good, which sets Jean Grey off. Jean Grey threatens to destroy the Nanny if she doesn't restore their minds. But the Nanny teleports herself and the Orphan Maker away. Galen and Joey may be forever thinking Jean Grey is a stranger. Again, if you didn't read that these two red-headed teens were in fact teens, you might think that they were 24 or 25. Rob Liefeld, just at this point in his career, isn't able to draw characters age appropriate. Even though the Nanny was technically a villain, Jean Grey and the X Factor team understand somewhat her motives. She believes that the Nanny believes she was the only one to truly save these mutant babies, but somehow overlooked that in her execution, the ends did not justify the means. Killing all these babies' parents? Not cool, Nanny. In walks Freedom Force, villains turned government stooges to claim these lost and forsaken babies from X Factor. To do with, we never know. Mystique tells Cyclops that because of X Factor's recent heroism, the government will let Rusty Collins off the hook, so that's nice. Now that Jean and Scott found Galen and Joey, Jean Grey is now focused on finding her sister Sarah, which I believe and she believes to be dead, probably. So it's not secret that Cyclops is my favorite character of all time, and Jean Grey is part of that. I love me a fiery redhead with big hair. But Rob Liefeld, come on man, that hair is too high. Even Dolly Parton, I think we can all agree, wore her wigs as big as they could come, big as they could be, and they still look tiny compared to how Liefeld drew Marvel Girl's hair on this page. I know it's comic art, but come on, man, it's too big. Galen and Joey still remember Jean Grey's parents, though, which is actually good news. So it's decided the kids will live with the grandparents until X Factor can find Jean Grey's sister Sarah, if she's even still alive. I rated this issue an 89% B+. I understand it is somewhat of a transition issue coming off such a big event such as Inferno. Everything after almost seems not that important. So I enjoyed the tone of this issue, the struggles the team endured, minor as they might be, and I enjoyed learning a little bit more about the backstory of the Nanny, which was cool. And as far as Rob Liefeld's art, I'll be honest, not a super fan from this issue. I prefer Walt Simonson's, actually. And at least I felt all his proportions were accurate. But I guess they gotta give new artists chances every now and then. Obviously, Rob Liefeld went on from here to have a successful career, but this first art credit wasn't his best. But let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Until next time, try and be good to one another. Peace!